Hi, welcome back to KRISHNA'S Backline. This is manual testing tutorial 2. In this tutorial, I am going to be mainly focusing on the Agile Scrum process itself. In Agile Scrum, what are the components having? In the roles in Agile Scrum, ceremonies in Agile Scrum, artifacts in Agile Scrum, all these topics I am going to be covering in this tutorial itself. The main thing, as I told in the earlier tutorial itself, what is Agile Scrum process, we will see here. It is the more popular in Agile modules itself. Release sprint to client or market in incremental spiral process itself. A famous and advanced software development life cycle model to develop a project based and a product based software. Develop your software as increment by increment is called a sprint. Here, sprint is a piece of software which is the combination of previous sprint and with extra features itself. Last sprint is whole software itself. Here, sprint means a piece of software which is potentially shippable, released to client or in the market itself. Agile Scrum team size is 7 to 10 members. To release the software in general, ratio is 3:1 in between developers and testers. Sprint duration is 30 working days or else 15 working days. It should be based on that variation between the project to the project itself. Daily Scrum meeting, Scrum team management, stakeholders on client is mandatory for the status reporting. How much work is done today and what to develop tomorrow. Those are all things we'll be discussing in the daily Scrum meet. This is the Agile Scrum process here. It should be a project or else it should be a product base. The same story here are also going on. What we seen in the earlier software bidding. C.E.O is going to be conducting one kickoff meeting. Here C.E.O is going to be selecting one PO. PO means product owner. Product next. PO is going to be conducting one meeting. That meeting is calling as product backlog grooming meeting. PO can sit with that client and stakeholders and gathering all the requirements which we are calling in Agile calling as the user stories itself, which is related to that project. Next meeting is going to be connecting by the PO itself. That meeting is calling as a sprint planning meeting. In that meeting mainly we are going to be presenting in that sprint planning meeting. PO can sit with the stakeholders, Scrum Master and the Scrum team. Scrum team means here developers and testers. To select some user stories, Scrum team developers can design the sprint. Scrum team developers can go to the coding, unit testing and the unit integration testing. And Scrum team testers can test for the quality sprint. Next, again they are going to be conducting one sprint review meeting. In that sprint review meeting, who are going to be attending means POs, stakeholders, Scrum Master, Scrum team can take the feedback of the sprint from the client itself. Next, if everything is fine means they are going to be releasing. Again, here also having the CCB freshers team itself, they are providing the maintenance, support and the services. Here in this process, if client is saying anything about that feedback is not good, like that means in the sprint retrospective meeting, in the sprint review meeting, again they are collecting all the feedback and again they are going to be conducting one more meeting. That meeting is calling as sprint retrospective meeting. In this meeting, who are the attendees means Scrum Master and the Scrum team only. Next, again they are going to be, after completion of that, again they are going to be conducting one more meeting, that is calling as product backlog refinement meeting. In that product backlog refinement meeting, clients, stakeholders, PO, Scrum Master and Scrum team, they are going to be conducting again the sprint planning meeting, again they are going to be taking some of the user stories, preparing their designs and releasing to that sprint to the testers itself. They are going to be testing and they are going to be releasing again. Like this the cycle will be going on. It should be a 30-day sprint or else the 15-day sprint. It should be based on that the projects itself. In the daily scrum meets, in this process we are having daily scrum meets, stand up meetings with the stakeholders and the POs, scrum master and the scrum team itself. This is the overall agile flow. And what is agile scrum components? Means roles, ceremonies, artifacts. These are all the agile scrum components. Roles in Agile Scrum: project based or else the product based. Client side people who are having means client and the stakeholder in the software company or else any organization. In this organization, who are going to be who are there in their roles itself means higher management means CEOs, product owner, scrum master, scrum team developers, scrum team testers, and the CCBs, change control board freshers. These are all the roles present in the Agile Scrum itself. What is the client responsibilities in Agile Scrum? Responsible to send the proposal to software company. He is responsible to appoint a stakeholder. Responsible to approve PO selection means product owner selection. He is responsible to sit with the POs to share the requirements, and the responsible to involve in every sprint review to give the feedback. In every sprint review meeting, the client should be attendee and he need to give the feedback. Responsible to involve product backlog refinement meeting to changes in the requirement if needed. Next, what is the stakeholders responsibilities in the Agile Scrum? He is responsible to approve the PO selections and are responsible to share the client requirement to POs, responsible to select some user stories from all the user stories, responsible to involve in daily scrum meet, responsible to involve every sprint meeting to get the feedback of client, responsible to involve in product backlog refinement meeting also. Next, what is the higher management role and responsibilities in Agile Scrum? Receiving a proposal from the client in project based and they can prepare own proposal in product based itself. Proposal in the product base itself. Responsible to select POs in project. Responsible to select model client, model stakeholder and PO in the product. PO responsibilities in Agile Scrum. Responsible to create user stories by taking with the client and the stakeholders. The list of all user stories is called as a product backlog. And some PO can take the help of the SME means subject matter experts to get the clarity on that client requirements, but here SME is an outsider one. Means who is having the domain knowledge related to that person we are taking here the help. PO can divide big user stories to epics into a small user stories if needed. Example, product backlog for online banking system. PO can set stakeholders, scrum masters, and scrum team to select some user stories from all the user stories. PO can participate in daily Scrum meet along with the Scrum Master, Scrum team and the stakeholders for status reporting. PO can join with the Scrum Master, Scrum team and the stakeholders to take feedback of client on every sprint. PO is responsible for sprint release if requirement. Some companies can release final sprint only the whole software like that only. It should be variance from organization to organization. In Agile Scrum, PO is the decision maker. Next, for example, if here we are considering an example, user stories, document ID like this, users login. as a registered user in this online banking system. I would like to means what I need to do here: launch site, enter user ID, which is an alphanumeric, positions to be 4 to 16 itself, and entering the password, which is the new alphanumeric 4 to 8 positions. Then click on the sign in button. So that what I need to get: next page for the validation data, error message for the invalid data. Next, here what is the acceptance criteria? Login is easy to use. Login is possible with Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, different browsers on different voices itself. Here in this user story, what are the functionalities I need to develop here? Login functionality, logout functionality, money transfer, mini statement, bill payments, loans, credits only, fixed deposits. Like that, different modules I need to develop here. For the 30 days sprint by 7 to 10 people in the in the Scrum team itself. This is the size of the user stories, importance of that user stories, and the complexity of the user stories. Based on that, we need to start that designing and implementation, coding, and the testing itself. If I want to do the money transfer operation means, what is my basic criteria? I need to be a registered user, then only I am able to do money transfer, right? Here the basic main part I am going to be starting with the initial stage means login functionalities. Like that, we need to give the priority while taking the decisions. Next, Scrum Master responsibilities in the Agile Scrum itself. Scrum Master is a facilitator, implements PO given strategy into daily schedules, responsible to organize sprint planning meeting, to select some user stories from all user stories, responsible to organize daily Scrum meeting, inviting POs, stakeholders, and the Scrum team. He is the responsible organize sprint review meeting to collect the feedback, and responsible to organize the retrospective meeting with the Scrum team only. Responsible to organize PBL refinement meeting, changes in user stories if required. Responsible to solve issues related to Scrum team. He is the responsible to protect Scrum team from external interference. He is the responsible to improve skills for Scrum team if required, defining the time box for every meeting. These are all the Scrum Master responsibilities in the Agile Scrum. And one more thing, one more responsibility for the Scrum Master is he is going to be preparing the traceability of the traceability matrix of every project. Scrum team developers responsibilities in Agile Scrum. Studying the user stories sprint backlog to understand the client requirements and the expectation, involving in the sprint planning meeting along with the PO, stakeholders, Scrum Masters, and Scrum team testers. Responsible to prepare HLDs and LLDs designs, sprint implementing, coding in sprint, unit testing, integration, and the interface testing. Release sprint to Scrum team testers, receive bugs, defects, issues, tickets, incident reports from the testers. Resolving bugs and releasing the modified sprint to testers. Involved in daily Scrum meeting, sprint review meeting, sprint retrospective meeting, involving in the PBL refinement meeting also. These are all the Scrum team developer responsibilities. Now here I need to talk about the Scrum team testers responsibilities. In Agile Scrum, involving in sprint planning meeting along with the POs, stakeholders, Scrum Masters, and the Scrum team testers. Studying all the user stories to go to the design to test design scenarios and preparing the scenarios, test cases, and tests and test data, sample data, and reviewing it. Reviewing the sprint from the Scrum team developers, executing the test cases, real testing, on sprint to detect the bugs manually, report bugs to the Scrum team developers, and get modified sprint. Execute test cases on modified sprint to ensure bug fixing, correctness, and the manually or automation. Involving daily Scrum meeting, sprint review meeting, sprint retrospective meeting, PBL refinement meeting. These are all the responsibilities in Agile Scrum for each and every Scrum team tester. And another one means change control board. Here freshers in the Agile Scrum, they are going to be responsible for the release sprint to maintenances, receiving change requests from the client, performing changes in sprint, and the release patch file to the client side people. Next, ceremonies in Agile Scrum means what are the meetings here in Agile Scrum we are having. Kickoff meeting, PBL grooming meeting, sprint planning meeting, daily Scrum meeting, sprint review meeting, sprint retrospective meeting, PBL refine meeting. Kickoff meeting, it should be organized by the CEO and the higher management to select the product owner. PO selection approved by client and stakeholder. Here there is no time box. Next, PBL grooming meeting. It should be organized by the PO itself. Participants are POs, Scrum Master. Scrum Master is an optional and the client and the stakeholders are should be presenting. To gathering all the requirements and preparing the user story. Here also not having any time box. Sprint planning meeting. Participants are POs, Scrum Masters and the Scrum team means developers plus testers and the stakeholder itself. Here gathering all the requirements and preparing user stories. No exact time box for this meeting. Daily Scrum meeting organized by the Scrum Master inviting the stakeholders, POs and the Scrum team. Also calling as a daily this meeting is also calling as a daily stand up meeting. What did you do you today? What did you do tomorrow? What are the obstacles are in your way? For this having the time box is minimum 15 minutes. In some organizations having 30 minutes also. It should be based on that organization to organization. Sprint review meeting organized by the Scrum Master inviting the client, stakeholder, PO and the Scrum team itself. Collecting the feedback on every sprint from the client. Perform instant changes in sprint if required. Time box is 2 to 3 hours. Next one, the sprint retrospective meeting here. Sprint retrospective meeting. Participants are Scrum Master and Scrum team only. To identify and solve the issues related to the Scrum team before going to the next sprint. Examples like lack of skills, lack of time, lack of documentation. For this meeting, having the time box period is 2 to 3 hours. Product backlog refinement meeting. Participants are the client, stakeholders, PO, Scrum Master and the Scrum team. To perform changes in user stories and to develop. For this having the time box limit is 2 to 3 hours. These are all the Agile artifacts means POs, Scrum Master, Scrum team developers, Scrum team testers and the Scrum Master. What they need to do means artifacts in the Agile Scrum itself. Product backlog, all user stories, sprint backlog, some user stories. Scrum team developers, they are going to be what they are going to be doing. High level and the low level designs, unit testing, unit testing and the integration testing. What they are going in coming to Scrum team testers, what they are going to be doing means test scenarios and the test cases, defect reports, automation scripts they are going to be developing. Scrum Master preparing the traceability matrices and the sprint burn down chart. These are all the artifacts in the Agile. For PO, Scrum team developers, Scrum team testers and the Scrum Master. What is the traceability matrix? Here if we seen means features in the sprint 1 login functionality. Here we are tagging test test 1 2 3 4 like that. I will mention here an example: passed passed test cases and the failed test cases, defect report, and the closed or the deferred or postponed bugs. And this is the summary of the table, means how many modules we take, how many features we are tested, how many are the left. Here we are giving the exact count, that is calling as the traceability matrix. And next one is the sprint burn down chart. From the day 1 to day 30, how much of time we work and how much of the work is completed. Here we are going to be calculating based on the team size and the total working hours. Here I will given an example like the team size is 10 people, working hours is 8, and the sprint is 30. For that we are getting if we are multiplying those things, means we are getting the 2400 hours. How much of efforts the team puts, everything we are going to be calculating here. That is sprint burn down chart. If it is a multi-scrum process, for example, if our project is big, means we organization can follow this multi-scrum projects. From this process, organization can divide big project into the multiple sub-projects. To handle every sub-project, organization can maintain the separate Scrum team, Scrum Masters, and the PO. To maintain the coordination between multiple Scrum team, the organization can maintain MPO, means Master Product Owner, and the CSM, Chief Scrum Team. Here MPO and CSM are the responsible to maintain the coordination between the Scrum team working for the corresponding subject project. Next, if anyone want to interest to do any Agile certifications, which is free, you need to log into the scrumstudy.com site, click on the registration, fill all the fields, and click on the submit button. You will get some more knowledge into the Agile itself. Thank you for watching the tutorial 2, and I will be coming with the next tutorial lesson 3. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe my channel for more knowledge. Thank you.